Hey,
Well,
Tegan, I did coach my touch football team for 3 plays before I got fired back in 2013. So incompletion punt. That was my coaching career. So
you are still technically a coach then, so it fits, right?
I think I was decertified midway through the first series. So,
well, we're going to play to your strengths today, my friend. Great follow on Twitter, by the way. If you don't already follow Rob Vanstone, you should. I don't even know how you have that much room in your brain for all of the statistics that you pour on us during the game, but what a game it was on Saturday, Rob. West champs, thriller of a finish at Mosaic Stadium. And the Riders are off to a Grey Cup in Winnipeg, facing the Montreal Alouettes. You got your bags all packed?
Yeah, including the bags under my eyes. Everything is packed. So there's no room in my brain, but there's plenty of room on a MacBook, and that's where all this stuff resides. Thank goodness for my wife, Chrysula, who handled everything from actually finding the suitcase to reminding me what I needed to bring. So without her, I would still be somewhere in Albert Park, just kind of trying to hitch a ride. But it's really amazing to think that, this feels like a kind of a normal Monday afternoon at, I hesitate to call it the office because this is far too amazing to be called an office. But it's just, it seems like an ordinary afternoon. People are just tending to their duties, but you see suitcases by certain people's desks, and that tells you something big's happening. And there's meetings, and we get to, there'll be a send-off, or there's a send-off today. We get to the airport in Winnipeg, and that's where I think it's really going to kick in, because there'll be media, there'll be everything, and we'll be. It won't be a subtle entrance or subtle arrival in Winnipeg, and that's when it's really going to kick in.
It's going to be.
I start looking for a good coffee shop to do some writing over the next week.
It will be a whirlwind of a week for you and the rest of the Riders organization. But backing up to Saturday at Mosaic Stadium against the BC Lions, that was wild, Rob. 24-21. That last-minute play by touchdown Tommy was crazy. How would you place that win among the most historic moments in Rough Rider playoff history? Where does it stack up?
Well, if you're looking at playoffs and excluding Grey Cups, that was the most dramatic Western final since 1972, coincidentally in Winnipeg. The Riders beat Winnipeg 27-24. I was 8 years old. Mom took me to the game. And on the last play, the Riders were down 24-7 in the third quarter. And Ronnie and George did their work, and Jack Abanchan kicked a field goal in the last play to send the Riders to the Grey Cup. So in terms of, playoff victories, there was a 1963 two-game total point series against Calgary. The Riders won 48-47 over 2 games. They lost the first game 35-9. And then they won the second game 39-12 to win the series by 1 point. There was a Jason Claremont touchdown in the West semifinal against BC in overtime in 2010. But it's on that Mount Rushmore of amazing games. It was in terms of West final at Taylor Field, it's by far the most dramatic ending. And I've watched that play so many times, and the amazing thing is Trevor Harris put that football the only place you could put it. That was just amazing. Tommy Neal got open. He got the inside leverage, but Trev had to put the ball right there. Just what a perfect throw. And you look at some of the perfect throws he made during that game. The one to Tommy Neal, where there's 4 or 5 Lions in the picture. One to Kian Schaefer-Baker earlier in the game, where there's 4 Lions. He just layered the ball in. And that play, Tommy Neal, it's going to far outlive me as far as impact. Well, there's no impact from me, but but in terms of long after I'm gone, people are going to be showing that replay. That's the kind of momentous play that it was, and I'm glad the stadium was sold out, because I think anybody who wasn't there would have been. Had there been an empty seat, I think people would have been thinking, well, gee, maybe I should have gone. What a day. I could babble about that one forever, Tegan. It just, it's kind of neat that at 61 years old, you get to experience things like this, and they still get you charged up. You can't get blasé about anything like that, even if you've seen 14 million Rider games before. That's one of the elite few.
Yeah, I think I might have rewatched that touchdown about 20 30, maybe 50 times at this point. It was just such a critical moment in that game. But you know what, Rob? Stats only tell a part of the story. Momentum, emotion, key plays, they matter big time, obviously. It won them the game. But what standout or maybe non-statistical moment from the game do you think helped shift that outcome despite, what the numbers show?
I think if you look at, numbers show yards after catch, but they don't show what is done to get those yards after catch. And how many series were extended? Some series have turned into touchdowns because Samuel Emelis carried a defender 2 or 3 yards. Joe Robustelli did the A.J. Ouellette on the final drive. And those turned 8 yards into 11. They turned second or third and short into first downs. And so much has been made this year about the intangibles that members of that receiving corps possess. And their willingness to block and do the things that don't show up statistically. And that was done in abundance too. If you look at A.J. Ouellette with 17 carries for 113 yards, but the yards after catch and the determination there. BC's final full series, 2nd and 3, and it goes down as a sack for a marginal loss by A.J. Allen. But what they don't show is that, A.J. sheds a blocker. And Jameer Thurman is right there, and C.J. Rivas is right there, and the perfect defensive call was made. Things like that, they don't show up, but in a game that close, there's so many things that had one play, one motion gone in one direction or the other, it could have influenced that game. That's how close it was. And from the moment that, the Roughriders got their first stop of BC on those back-to-back 2-and-outs. The Roughriders pretty much needed everything to go their way, and they made everything happen. There wasn't really a blemish to be found.
We do need to talk about the kick, Rob. Head coach Corey Mace making a bit of a questionable decision, according to the fans. You were in the building. You heard the people freaking out, deciding to kick it rather than going in for that touchdown. From a historical perspective, though, how does that decision compare to other critical coaching choices in these big Rider games?
I'm just trying to think of a precedent for that one. And you look at the tail end of halftime in the 2009 Grey Cup, and Andy Fantuz, right before halftime, caught a long pass and was knocked out of bounds of the 2, and there was enough time for one play. And at that point, Ken Miller had to make the decision. Do I go for the field goal or do I kick? Now, the way that game turned out, Roughriders lost it by 1. Ken was second-guessing himself for years about should I have gone for the touchdown there? But in a game where everything matters that much, I think you take the points. I didn't take issue with Ken Miller's decision on November 29th, 2009, and the Corey Mace decision didn't irk me one bit. A friend of mine texted me right after that decision was made and just sent me 3 question marks. And I said, what Corey is doing here that maybe doesn't get recognized is he's also buying insurance. If you look at the way Nathan Rourke was moving the football prior to that, if, say, the Riders gamble on 3rd and 5 and don't make it, the way Rourke has been moving the ball, who's to say he doesn't move the ball down and get a field goal? And then it's a 2-possession game, and it's game over. So he was also, with that field goal, buying some insurance in case BC did move the ball down the field. And it turns out the Riders got some stops, and that field goal ended up putting the Roughriders in position for the game-winning touchdown as opposed to the game-tying touchdown. So people can say hindsight is 20/20, but I could show you a text that I sent right to my friend before the field goal was even attempted, saying Corey is buying insurance. And what a policy that turned out to be.
No kidding. I think Dave Thomas. Oh, no. Appreciate it. I think Dave Thomas has been spending a lot of time around you, Rob, because he wrote up this article. It's at sportscage.com, and it's looking at all of the connections between numbers, and it's actually pretty cool. With 13:46 left in the second quarter, BC kicker Sean White hit the upright from 42 yards out, the same upright Cody Fajardo struck in the 2019 West Final, the last time the Riders hosted the game. There's a lot of other connections that he makes in this way. Brett Lauther lines up for the 13-yard field goal late in the fourth quarter in front of a restless crowd, the self-proclaimed 13th man. There's a lot of these connections. Are there any that jump off the page to you that maybe the average fan wouldn't think about?
Well, Brett has talked a few times about the empty panes at the north end of the stadium. It says Grey Cup champions, There's one for 66, 89, 2007, 2013, and then there's two spaces to their right. And Brett has talked many times that when he's attempting a field goal at that end of the stadium, he looks through the uprights and he sees those panes, and he wants to add one to that. So I thought, well, what end of the stadium did Brett attempt his last field goal? Basically at the north end, and there are those two empty panes. And this is the person who told me numerous times, you want to fill those slots. So I thought of that one a bit, and I did think of the upright. Because the previous time a Western Final had been played here, that was the piece of construction in the end zone that the ball boinked off of. So I saw that and I thought, well, maybe there's some equilibrium at work here, and you never know how to quantify that or even account for it. But I did find some irony or at least coincidence in it, and now we'll just cross our fingers and hope that there's more things continue to balance out next Monday, because the Roughriders are owed some Grey Cups.
Well, you said it. Next Sunday, Riders, Alouettes in Winnipeg. Now, from your perspective, having followed this team for such a long time and really, really knowing all of the minutiae and the statistics and these incredible storylines in the franchise's history, how do you think the team is feeling knowing that they're going to be in their rival's barn, potentially lifting that Grey Cup? What have those conversations sounded like?
You know, I was thinking about that today. I was coming to the stadium because I really haven't asked that question of any of them yet. I've thought about it, but as things unfold in Winnipeg, I'm sure they're going to be asked that question a million times. I'm interested to see what the composition of the crowd will be. You know, how many Bombers fans held on to their tickets after the Bombers were beaten by Montreal? How many Rider fans are going to be there compared to Bombers fans? Which way is the crowd going to lean? I'm really interested in the disbursement of tickets and how many of them have gone from people in Manitoba to people in Saskatchewan or people anywhere else in Canada that support the Roughriders. So the composition of the crowd is going to be interesting. I'm not sure what the representation is going to be for Montreal. They have some staunch fans that travel well, but I remember what it was like in Calgary in 2009, Edmonton 2010, and Montreal was in both those Grey Cup games, and that felt like a Rider home game. The Winnipeg factor might make things interesting. I don't quite remember what it was like in 1931 when the Riders played the Montreal Winged Wheelers. I was too young at the time, but I'll get back to you on that one. I think I was in grade 6.
Rob, do you think this rivalry is more for the fans than it is the players? I know they got a little chippy. Trevor Harris specifically got a little bit chippy in the pre-game media availability last week. But do you think this is something the fans enjoy more than the players do, in your experience?
I think the players generally filter that stuff out. People talk about bulletin board material, and I've never really subscribed to that. You look at the 1969 Super Bowl, and right before that, Joe Namath of the New York Jets said, "We're going to win, I guarantee it." And the Jets were expected to lose by like 15, 16, 17 points to the Baltimore Colts. And the Jets won 16-7. And the guaranteed win and the brashness and bravado of Joe Namath didn't suitably inspire the Baltimore Colts, heavily favored, to win the Super Bowl game. So I think that stuff is generally overrated. You know, it was a little fun when Willie Jefferson and Davis Alexander started going at it before verbally before the East semifinal. But once the game's on the field, I don't think any of that stuff matters. And if you need that stuff, that means you just aren't suitably or sufficiently motivated before that. And I worry about someone if they need that stuff to really get themselves pumped up, if the bulletin board material is going to make the difference. Because if that's the case, well, why weren't you Trevor Harris has said it a million times, like people say you're going to give more, because it's a big game and you're really jacked up for this game. I always give 100%, whether it's a practice, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a scrimmage, a preseason game, or a playoff game. You can't give more than 100%. You got to treat everything seriously. So if you're already giving 100%, how do you exceed that? And you should, as a baseline, be giving that 100% before anything is said in the media. I think that's all for the fans and the media and hype, and I think it's all delicious, great fun. And
the
well
Grey
done,
Cup
Trevor.
should be the motivation, right? Yeah, absolutely. Get those fans hyped.
Trevor is the best. Trevor's the best.
Well, your bags are packed. You're ready to go. You're leaving on a jet plane. I understand it's a full plane, though, so unfortunately the pup Penny isn't going to be coming along with.
Yeah, Candy's going to be.
Candy, pardon me.
Sorry. I had to give her a plug. Sorry. No, I'm gonna miss her. I promised to FaceTime her hourly, and we'll have a nice reunion on Monday. And I hope to bring her a green Grey Cup champions doggy scarf. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, Rob Vanstone, senior journalist, historian with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I know you've had a very, very busy start to your week already, so I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Oh, thanks for your time, Tegan. It's always a pleasure, and look forward to any follow-ups you'd like to do.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely be in touch, Rob. Have a safe trip.
Take care. Yeah, thanks so much, Tegan. Take care.